Welcome to another Whiskey, Games, and Nerd Stuff. Today's whiskey is Jack Daniels, and today's video is going to be about Tariffs. But before we begin, let's go ahead and pour a drink, because we're going to need it. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. All right, let's pour a little bit more. All right, let's take a sip. Sometimes you just can't beat a good Jack and Coke. Today's video is going to be, again, like I said, about tariffs. And after last week's, quote, Liberation Day announcement regarding tariffs, I felt the need to make a longer video about tariffs. I've done several, but I particularly wanted to do a video about the impact of the Liberation Day, and I'm making quotation marks, announcement would have on the whiskey, board game, and what I consider the nerd stuff industries. Now, as I was thinking about the type and the tone of the video I wanted to make, I was reading, a plethora of number of articles, listening to news, and watching multiple videos on the various socials on the topic. There's some really good content out there on the topic. And I'm actually going to briefly give a mention to several that I watched and would recommend you watching as well. If you've watched other videos that have discussed this particular topic that you would recommend, please leave a comment in the comment section. Now, when leaving these comments on this video, or those others that I'm going to recommend, I ask that you respectfully just don't be an asshat. Tariffs, among other topics, seem to be one of those ones that tend to trigger people. And for some reason, there's some out there that feel that it's not possible to discuss the issue without lowering themselves to disrespectful comments. So I always encourage people to comment in the comment section, whether you agree or disagree. And I have to imagine these other creators that I'm recommending would encourage the other thing. But there are some people out there that are just asses. And, for whatever reason, anything that they disagree with that triggers them, then they go off on a tangent. So, everybody would encourage a respectful, open dialogue. We can agree and disagree. You just don't have to go down that road. None of the videos that I'm going to recommend, nor this one for really that matter, are advocating the pros or cons of tariffs. And I want to say that again. None of the videos that I'm recommending, nor for this matter, are advocating the pros and cons of tariffs. Rather, they're discussing how they foresee these impacting the industry, the people they care about, their livelihood, and how it's impacting their families. For those interested in a video that will discuss the pros and cons, the value, the strategic pros and cons of tariffs, why they come about, etc., I'm actually working on a longer video that I intend to post in the future. Anyone who's been a fan of the channel knows from time to time, I will post videos under the, quote, nerd stuff that I like to talk about. Usually it's books, articles, or just something I found of interest. Let's go ahead and take another sip. Now, the first video I would like to mention is one from Board Game Buzz. I believe the title of the video was Tariffs, what do they mean for the game board industry? I actually subscribed to Board Game Buzz after watching this video. I appreciated how sincere she came across. You could tell that she genuinely cares about and has empathy for those in the industry, her viewers, and how tariffs are going to impact them. I felt she did a great job in laying out some of the practical implications of the tariff announcements, and having had firsthand experience of the types of comments on social media that talking about what could be a polarizing issue, I have mad respect for her doing it and how she approached it. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there. And the fact that she did it in such a way with a sincere, heartfelt, she genuinely cared and talked about the topic. I had to immediately subscribe to her channel, and I plan to go back and kind of watch some of her other videos. Again, that's Board Game Buzz. I would highly recommend you watch that video. I really think it's worth watching. I'm going to go ahead and take another sip. The second video that I'm going to mention is the one I watched from MinMaxgames. I always say their name wrong. I believe the title on that one was Market Update, Tariffs, and TCbh. Now, there's a couple reasons why I'm recommending them. And it's MinMaxgames. So there's a couple of reasons that I'm going to recommend them. Number one, they sell Flesh and Blood, sealed and single product, and have been, I think, almost since day one. And for anyone who's watched the channel, I am a huge, huge fan of Flesh and Blood. It's an amazing TCG. And as much as I've always liked and have an affection for Magic the Gathering, I sincerely believe that Flesh and Blood is the best TCG out there. The other reason that I like this video is he discusses it from the perspective of a business owner. And he talks about how the tariffs were going to impact him. And he basically says, look, hey, as a business owner, these tariffs are going to cost me more money. As a business owner, I'm going to have to pass those costs to my customer. I genuinely feel if most or all business owners out there had the courage to come out and say, hey, these tariffs, if stay in effect, will cost us more money. Hey, it's not the other countries that's paying this tariff. It's us, the business owners. It's the importers. We're the ones that are paying this additional cost, and we have to pass that cost along to you. I do appreciate the fact that he talked about this. And I also, the other reason I wanted to recommend his video is they go on to talk about, so there's a new edition coming out for Flesh and Blood, and he talked about how those that already pre-ordered it, if the cost is going to cost them more, they're going to honor the pre-order price. And that's a reason why I will always be and have been, will be, and continue to be a customer of them. Again, I don't know them. They don't know me. But this is one of those things that I do respect. Let's go ahead and take another sip. The third video that I watched that I'm going to recommend is from I believe it was the Cardboard Herald. And they did a podcast / video on how do tariffs affect the board game industry. Now, this is one of the videos that I would say came the closest to that what some would consider to be political. I personally don't think it was a political video, and it's very hard, let's be honest. It's hard to talk about tariffs without it coming across as political or some people saying it's political. It's a very long video. I want to say it's about an hour long. I felt it was good. It was a great conversation of two people talking about tariffs, how it's going to impact things, how they see it playing out, and some just general thoughts. I really appreciated the video. I liked it, and I did subscribe to them and would recommend watching it. The fourth and final video that I'm going to recommend right now is the one from Woodstock Games. Full disclosure, this is the one person that I actually know, that I've met in person, that I've made some videos with, and I am a huge fan of his game Dice Fights. This video touched me because I know from talking to him the love he has for this game, his business, and the struggles of being a small independent game designer, publisher, business owner. And I know from conversations with him, talking about kind of how that goes, it really made me appreciate those that are making these games. And I think if you watch his video, you're going to see a prime example of how this is going to have a direct impact on small businesses. In fact, he just had a recent Kickstarter for an expansion for Dice Fights called Dice Fights Healer Still. Great game, had a chance to play it. And now it's put him in a weird position. Let me go ahead and take another drink. He's already paid for and had started the manufacturing process for this next shipment. Now, when he did this, the tariffs were looking to be 10%, roughly, because it was coming from China. So he can put that cost into it when he's doing the Kickstarter and doing all that, what he's going to sell. Now he's looking at, depending on when you put the news on, it's going to be 54% or an additional 84% that he's going to have to come out with at the time of this video. This is a real-world example of a small business owner that may have to pay an additional $5 to $15,000 to get the games that he already put in place. This can put him in it puts him in just a shitty situation. You know, if you're a small independent game owner, producer, designer, manufacturer, and now you're in a position where, okay, I either have to raise prices of my game or I'm going to have to sell for a loss. And if you're in a situation where you're trying to get your brand awareness out there and you're barely breaking even or break even, now you have to decide how much of a loss am I willing to take, knowing that there's a certain price point there where if I charge a little bit more, the consumer won't buy the product. And this real world example, when you watch his full video, one of the things I want you to do is, how is it impacting him directly? Now ask yourself, how is this impacting the thousands and thousands of small businesses that have already paid for or put deposits on materials, products, and stuff that are coming in, that some are literally on ships on their way to U.S. ports, that because of the timing of the announcement now have to come up with additional thousands of dollars to get their product. You know what happens when a importer or a business doesn't pay that additional tax, that tariff that they weren't planning on at the ports? They actually destroy the product. They'll give them a certain amount of days, and usually it's 24 to 40 hours to say, if you don't come up with this additional tariff, we're going to destroy the product. Now, how is that fair? How is that pro-business? How are you fighting for the American business, the American consumer? How is this a good thing? Now, as I mentioned, I plan on doing a longer video. I'm kind of going through the pros, the cons, and actually kind of doing some clarification of what really tariffs are, what trade deficits really are, and where some things, quite frankly, just don't make sense. I would love to hear people's comments. I would love for you to share stories of how this is impacting people that you know in the community. You know, I intentionally have Jack Daniels that I put out here, which is an American company that makes whiskey, and I'm having my Jack and Coke. But these tariffs that we're placing on other countries, because of how we went about it, is going to negatively impact American producers. You're going to have the other countries react. There's a better way to do this, and this is something I intend to discuss in the other video at length. I'll kind of leave it for now. Again, I really would recommend watching those other videos. If you have other videos or things that you would recommend, please put comments in the comment section. If anybody's writing any articles that they feel would be very educational and beneficial to share, I would please share those. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, folks, cheers.